Straining their eyes through the clouds, Second Lieutenants Lois Watson Mackenzie and Agnes Jensen stared, disbelieving, as anti-aircraft artillery tracers tore perilously close to their medical transport. The dank mist that enveloped the plane made the reddish slug seem even more malignant. Sitting several rows behind the nurses, Sergeant Loris Orville Abbott, a medic and a car buff, likened the ACAC tracers to sparks from a coughing engine. Ugly black bursts soon erupted off both wings, rocking the plane. The fog was so dense, it was as if the deadly fusillade were being fired from some unseen netherworld. 1 minute later, their Dakota C-53 was lowering its wheels and swooping toward the ground, eliciting cheers from the 26 nurses and medics on board. The next moment, they were gasping for air as the plane aborted its landing. Seconds later, they were slammed against their seatbacks as the transport lurched skyward. And now somebody was shooting at them. An ominous clang began rattling from the tail section. But who was doing the shooting, and why? Since leaving Sicily 4 hours earlier on what should have been a routine hop to southern Italy, they'd been flying blind, lost in the dismal November slop for what seemed an eternity, desperately seeking terra firma and a place to land. They'd finally spotted a coastline, and a few minutes after that, an air dome, only to discover that it was controlled by someone hostile. Was it the Axis enemy? Had they somehow wandered over that part of Italy still dominated by the Germans? As it climbed, the plane began to twist and turn, first one way, then the other. Clearly, the pilots were taking evasive action, scrambling to hide in thicker cloud cover. The frenetic swerving could mean only one thing: hostile fighter planes were now chasing them. Mackenzie, Jensen, Abbott, and company tried to remember their training and not succumb to panic. Jensen glanced across the aisle and saw a 19-year-old male medic shaking like a leaf. Before long, through a break in the clouds, they glimpsed craggy white mountain tops. They knew their fuel couldn't last much longer. These young Americans were, quite literally, trapped in the fog of war. Most of them would stay trapped for the next 62 days, unwittingly dragging into the mire the President of the United States, 2 Allied Special Ops agencies, the British Balkan Air Force, the 12th and 15th U.S. Army Forces, the USAAF's Public Relations Command, and hundreds of flinty Albanian partisans. The operation to rescue the Americans became so obtrusive, in fact, that SOE officers worried it was undermining their efforts to help the Albanian resistance eradicate the Germans. Before the ordeal finally ended, it would ensnare 2 future movie stars, 1 English and 1 American, one of the most decorated soldiers in English history, the British Empire's most renowned explorer and mountaineer, the scion of Britain's largest cookie fortune, and the Cold War's most notorious traitor. To spring the final group of Americans, Allied special operatives and their Albanian cohorts would concoct a subterfuge so audacious that it rivaled the Central Intelligence Agency's Argo rescue in Iran 36 years later. Fog is so pervasive throughout the classic film Casablanca that it's practically a member of the cast. Released in the fall of 1942, the movie was still new to the British troops hunkered down in Italy a year later. When the Tommies at one camp watched the climactic scene, when Humphrey Bogart's character, Rick Blaine, guns down the reptilian German Major Heinrich Strasser, played by Conrad Veidt, on a murky airport tarmac, the Brits hollered almost in unison, "Stretcher bearer!" Too many Allied stretchers were needed in the Italian campaign, and there weren't enough medics and nurses to bear them. Italy was, as the great American war correspondent Ernie Pyle wrote, a tough old gut. Its forbidding terrain lent itself to the diabolical warfare at which German Army Group C commander General Feldmarschall Albert Kesselring had become expert. Kesselring had convinced Adolf Hitler in the fall of 1943 to let him use Italy's mountains to wage a defensive brawl. He directed his men to detonate roads and bridges, fall back to high ground, turn and fight, then slip away to blow up more roads while retreating to even higher ground. For Allied soldiers, it amounted to a non-stop artillery barrage launched from one thorny summit after another. The Germans' Volturno line gave way to the Bernhardt line, which gave way to the Gustav line, and so on, as the Allies slogged through the increasingly miserable winter weather. The Italian campaign was a morass, but it was also a moving testament to the coalition.